Welcome to Best of Reddit. Be sure to subscribe as we upload new content daily. Never bully your insurance company, or you lose your franchise. This story comes from a friend of mine, Sarah, and has been building for almost 5 years until it all came crashing down over the last week. A few things to note before I get into it. 1. Sarah works at an insurance company, dealing with a massive nationwide delivery company. Her company insures all the delivery trucks. 2. Over the years, Sarah had seen her fair share of anger from callers. Mostly justified, or people letting off steam at the anonymous voice on the other end of the phone. She's learned not to take it personal. 3. She absolutely despises the owner of one particular franchised depot, Richard. On to the story. We start in 2016. Richard is the franchisee of a vehicle depot for delivery company. Meaning he's sort of an owner, but the company's CEO could take away his ownership if they feel like it. I'm not sure exactly how this works, but as far as I understand it's a fairly standard franchise contract, so anyone who knows about these things should have a rough idea of what Richard has to do. Richard calls in for the first time, to talk to Sarah about a claim one of his drivers is making. Something simple, reversed into a wall, minimal damage, but claiming to get the vehicle repaired. Richard starts ranting and screaming about how dare his driver be expected to pay an excess, standard. Sarah has dealt with people like this all her career, so she just deals with it as she always does. And so it continues for 2 years, with Richard bullying and abusing any call handler when he calls about a claim. It's annoying, and plenty of people have been brought to tears by it, but they can't stop serving him because he is responsible for dealing with his franchise's claims. It's now 2018, and Richard decides to get himself arrested. To give you an idea of just how stupid this man is. One of his drivers had been in a really bad accident. Nobody was seriously hurt, but the van was badly damaged. So while it was being repaired, Sarah organized for a hire van. Richard goes to the hire company to collect the van, and he's asked to make a £1 payment by debit credit card to secure the vehicle. I'm pretty sure it's so the hire company can just charge it for any damage caused while on hire, and is an industry standard in my country. Richard doesn't like this. He argues with the hire company. He threatens to dump the hire vehicle once he's finished with it. Finally, he punches the poor bloke working front desk. As previously stated, Richard gets arrested. Fast forward to a few months ago. Everyone is working from home, yay, lockdown, and most people understand this. Everyone except Richard. He must be having a particularly bad day, because his tantrum about how useless Sarah and her company is descends into personal insults. Sarah, having an equally bad day, decides that now is the moment she will get revenge on this guy for everything he has put every claim handler through. So she requests a copy of the recording of the call, all calls recorded for safety, complaints and calling people out on their bullcrap. She then sends this recording to 3 people. Her manager, saying she refuses to speak to Richard due to his abusive behavior. The rest of the team agree, and suddenly there is not a single claims handler willing to speak to this man. Manager says he will sort something. Richard's boss, simply stating that his behavior is unacceptable, and the next time he tries to speak to someone at insurance company that way, they will end the call. Every listed CEO or board member of Richard's company. She wanted all of them to know just how vile this man was. Then, today, she gets the call she's been waiting for. A representative of delivery company has called, wanting to apologize for everything Richard put her and her team through. He also gives the best news: Richard has been downgraded from franchise owner to a lowly delivery driver. His lovely pay package, benefits, annual bonus, and company-funded car, a brand new Mercedes, for anyone interested, have all been taken away. He now earns a little over minimum wage, 60-hour weeks to pay his bills, with his reputation in tatters. If he doesn't meet the standard for delivery drivers within the next 3 months, he'll be fired. Sarah also learned from someone she knows in the company that his wife is divorcing him, because he told her she needs to get a job or they'll lose the house thanks to his sudden drop in income. Sarah hasn't yet met the new franchisee, but if I know her, she'll make it clear that she's the one who ruined Richard's life, and she isn't afraid to do it again if the new guy doesn't treat her and her colleagues with respect. Lesson: don't be a Richard to call center employees. Next up, steal my underwears. Enjoy your time in prison. My family moved into a third world country from Italy when I was 22 because my father said that he was getting old and wanted to go back to his country. Every week or so when my cousins would visit, some stuff from my room would go missing. Sometimes it was money and sometimes it was random things which annoyed me. One day when we were visiting them, my aunt asked me to get her something from her son's room. I was planning on taking a look around the room to see if he was the one stealing from me. But when I entered the room, I found one of my underwear on the ground. I took pictures and then tried to grab it only to find out that it was full of his liquid. I was angry, but I left the room like nothing happened, like the pushover I am. My best friend back then was a lawyer, and when I told her about it, she told me that there is nothing that I can do about it legally since I can't prove he stole it. But since he is the one stealing from me, I can make a trap by putting a camera in my room and using something expensive, that doesn't look that expensive, as a bait. I liked my friend's idea and she suggested using an expensive alcoholic drink, so I bought a bottle for 10,000 United States dollars. The average salary in this country is 200 United States dollars a month, and I could only afford this because I started my own business on the internet back in college, and set the trap. When they came to visit, he stole the bottle and a wired bra that was on my bed. I told my best friend and she came with me to tell the police. When they brought him, he denied everything. But then my best friend gave the cops the video and asked them to go through his room to look for the rest of my things. They found the underwear and a lot of my stuff in there, and the bottle was empty. Now my father's part of the family have cut contact with us and he is serving his second year in prison. We returned to Italy because, as my father said, we don't have a family there anymore. My parents know the full story and they are proud. Next up, write me up for simple mistakes to get me fired. Prepare to get fired. Anyways, private security was my field up until a few years ago. When I say security, I don't mean mall cops, but high-end, armed trained security. I spent a few years working a job in another city away from home, but the company went under, so I decided to move back home. I found a security job online. It was simple entry level, basically sitting behind a computer. You were security for the building, but monitored security for other sites the company owned across 3 states. Like small repair places, factories, places where they stored vehicles, etc. So I submitted my resume. The next day a guy calls and sets up an interview. Awesome, because I needed to find work fast. Went to the interview, conducted by a woman I'll call Jane. She was the supervisor and the guy the first talked to was her boss. Jane immediately told me I was way overqualified, which I found strange but okay. Interview went fine and I left. A few hours later she called and said I was hired and set up training days. Now I won't go through that, just wanted to give background, so let's go to the good parts. She always gave me a cold shoulder. Her boss found out I have all the qualifications, licensing and training to be armed, so he had me come in armed. Nothing fancy, handgun, 3 magazines and handcuffs. She would always make comments about how everyone should be armed. A few of my co-workers I wouldn't trust with a water gun, and she should decide who is armed. Just little comments to get under my skin. Then one day it happened. I was working the front desk, reception that day, and she sends me a message over Messenger telling me she needs to see me. I go back, she drags me to a side office with a write-up form. Apparently when I added door access to visitors badge, I added the door to the gym in the basement, a mistake but not life-threatening. A week later I didn't sign my timesheet, another for not filling in a form correctly. All minor things everyone has done or did. The end came about 9 months into the job when I looked at the new timesheet. I was paired with a new officer who had been there a month, only he was listed as shift supervisor. Confused, I took it to her second in command. I'll call him Bob, a great guy. He told me that he brought it up, that I had the experience and seniority to be promoted, and she basically told him to screw off, it was her choice. Anyways, that got me mad. So I started planning my revenge. I don't normally do this, but I knew one more write-up I would be fired no matter how minor the infraction was. Good thing is during the night shift there is only 2 people and we can't see each other's computers. So I started thinking. I remembered about 4 months prior her car broke down in the parking lot across the street. Instead of having it towed, Jane's father decided to fix it there. No big deal. Only during that time Jane was bringing her husband back into the security office. This was a huge deal. The office took scanning at 3 doors and a keypad to enter. In the whole building only the security staff and 1 cleaning guy had access. It was the headquarters for the company and not even the executives had access. From our computers we could open any door, turn off any camera or alarm, and open any gate in any building that the company owned. So it was a big deal because we had the keys to the kingdom. That was a huge freaking violation, so I hatched my plan. Under the excuse of having a smoke, I went out to reception and copied the visitor log from those days. I then went back in and accessed the video feeds. You could go back a year for all video feeds, and took screenshots of her husband entering the doors and office. The office itself had no camera, as well as with timestamps, him leaving and the fact he never swiped in, which following someone into a door, even if they hold it open, you must scan your card. I logged onto my private email and sent it to another email knowing they don't log what you do on the computers. I got home and sent all the pics, the log copies and everything to not only her boss, but his boss whose job was investigating breaches and theft. I also included every dirty trick she pulled playing favoritisms etc. The fallout didn't take long. 2 days later, a Friday, I went in for afternoon shift and Bob was at Jane's workstation. I looked confused and said Jane was suspended for a week and that Monday I had to come in and speak with her boss and boss's boss, but I would be paid for it. Also everyone was interviewed. It was great, rumors were flying, I was laughing on the inside. Okay, interview day. I go in and they started questioning me. They knew I worked while she brought her husband in and asked me. I spilled everything after acting scared and getting assurances it would be confidential and I won't be punished. I didn't tell him I sent it, but they asked everyone. I left out some things in the email and added some things that weren't. I didn't want to be labeled as a snitch. It went on for an hour and I left. Next day an email is waiting. Jane was fired. Bob was in charge until a replacement is added. I had a long talk with Bob that day. Turns out Jane was scared of me because I was more qualified for her job than she was and knew I was her boss's golden boy. She was afraid, rightfully so it turned out, that I might take her job and admitted to him she wanted me gone. A fact he told them in his interview. Also that she didn't want to hire me, but her boss made her. Turns out her boss was aware of things and looking for an excuse to fire her, but it had to be big. Jane had been working at that department for 10 years. It was her first real job and security was all she knew. They blacklisted her, which means unless a company was really desperate she wouldn't get a security job anywhere in the state. Icing on the cake. I know you want to know. Yes, I was offered her job. No, I didn't take it. I told him that Bob deserved it more, he did, and that I would be happy being a shift supervisor.